Back, sir. Welcome back to the program. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Sean.
All right, a couple of things. Let's start with the photographs. Panetta's saying, because they got photographs, they got images, they got photographs prior to dumping his body in the sea. My attitude is, why not release all of these pictures and let the public see, let the public decide. Your thoughts?
Well, I'm really without conviction on the subject. I suspect that I'd have to see the photographs to know what my opinion was, but I tilt towards releasing them as you do.
Well, I really can't come up with a justifiable reason why we wouldn't. I mean, Uday and Qusay, that was released. Saddam Hussein's hanging, that was made public. And if you look on Google, on the internet, you could see, if you want to, pictures of former President Kennedy with half his skull missing.
Well, those were out. Those were not released. Those were taken, as I recall, the Kennedy photos in real time, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
And in this case, the concern on the part of the Department of Defense, I would think, would be, would the photographs contribute to enraging people in the world and causing recruiting to go up for Al-Qaeda or causing fundraising to go up for Al-Qaeda? To see that particular person, the face of Al-Qaeda terror, in a mutilated form. So I think that that is undoubtedly what's on their minds. I can't imagine that there would be anything in the photograph that would reveal anything relating to military techniques or sources and methods. So I think the only possible consideration would be the latter, and I think that's a tough judgment call.
Well, why would it be a tough judgment call when the report is that we shot him in the head? You know, for example, there was a 40-minute service, we're told, aboard our aircraft carrier. 40 minutes. And the burial at sea was supposedly to follow Islamic custom. And his body was cleaned, and he was covered with a shroud, and that there's a 40-minute service. And frankly, the more I think about it, the more inappropriate I think this is, because, you know, the people that died on 9/11, they didn't have a funeral. In many cases, we didn't recover their remains.
That's quite true. I think, however, that, at least for myself, I think they made exactly the right decision to dispose of the remains at sea and not bring them back to land and create a site where he could be considered a martyr of some sort.
Do you think this fear is somewhat irrational and a little bit misguided, that we might incite or enrage if we release the photo? We might incite, we might enrage if he wasn't given a proper funeral, etc., following Islamic custom? Because it seems to me that we're overly concerned about an enemy that's never going to like us anyway.
Well, you're quite right in terms of Al-Qaeda. They're not going to like us. They're going to keep doing what they're doing and do it viciously as they have in the past. I think the concern that undoubtedly people in the government are weighing is not what will Al-Qaeda think, but what will other people think of that fate. And I think they probably are not improperly making judgments that suggest that they would like to avoid causing additional concerns and causing additional people to feel that Al-Qaeda was mistreated in some way. I am delighted that he was killed. I am delighted they disposed of his remains at sea. And I think that the questions, these are side questions on the photos and on the procedures at sea. I'm not really familiar with what they've done, and I haven't seen the photos.
Well, there are many doubters in the Muslim world. The Taliban has said there's no proof of bin Laden's death. There's an explosion of conspiracy theories. Seems to me that they kind of have to do this. Let me ask you this. I think it's pretty clear now that discovering who this courier was through strong interrogation techniques that were employed during the Bush administration, without which this day would never have occurred. So can't we, it seems to me we need to reignite this debate about enhanced interrogation techniques in this country. Is that a good idea?
I think it certainly is a reasonable idea. Is it correct that the CIA Director Panetta today indicated that one of the individuals who provided important information had in fact been waterboarded.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Well, that's my understanding. And I think that anyone who suggests that the enhanced techniques, let's be blunt, waterboarding, did not produce an enormous amount of valuable intelligence just isn't facing the truth. The facts are, General Mike Hayden came in. He had no connection with waterboarding anybody. He looked at all the evidence and concluded that a major fraction of the intelligence in our country on al-Qaeda came from individuals, only three people who were waterboarded.
Yeah, well, there were only three people, right, and that led to the information of the nickname of the courier, and this, by the way, we've had this for years, and this was being pursued during the Bush years. The courier's name was found, he was eventually identified, and through eavesdropping, we were able to locate him and then locate bin Laden. But that brings up the issue of black sites, enhanced interrogation, rendition, all the things we've discussed. We would not have had this success. And these are the very policies. I praised the president yesterday. I think it was a gutsy move that he decided to go in and get him so we could have identification. But if he had had his way and Democrats had had his way, we wouldn't have had this intelligence, sir.
You're exactly right. I also agree that he made the right decision, and rather than using cruise missiles or drones to attack the facility, I think using the SEAL teams and going in there and actually getting him physically, identifying him, knowing that that's what's happened, and being certain about it was exactly the right call. I'm told there was some confusion today on some programs, even one on Fox, I think, suggesting that I indicated that no one was who was waterboarded at Guantanamo provided any information on this. That's just not true. What I said was no one was waterboarded at Guantanamo by the U.S. military. In fact, no one was waterboarded at Guantanamo, period. 3 people were waterboarded by the CIA away from Guantanamo and then later brought to Guantanamo. And in fact, as you point out, the information that came from those individuals was critically important.
Last question. Does George W. Bush, President Bush, deserve as much credit for what happened Sunday as President Obama?
Well, the current administration would not have had the kinds of intelligence that was critically important, nor would they have had the special forces in the numbers, with the equipment, with the training, with the authorities, and with the experience. We increased their budget, I think, 4-fold during the time I was in the Pentagon. We increased the numbers in the special operations people I believe, by about 50%. Their equipment's been improved. Those capabilities to deal with asymmetric threats were developed during the George W. Bush administration, and let there be no doubt about it. So we give credit to the current administration for making the decisions they made, and clearly the Bush administration is the one that developed and nurtured those capabilities.
All right, Defense Secretary Don Rumsfeld, thanks for being